All right, fantastic. So it seems like we have quorum. Everyone's been let in. Hope you guys are all staying safe and warm. And I'd like to hereby call this meeting of the Student Governing Association on February 1st to order. Looking at the first item on the agenda, if our Madam Secretary could start with the roll call. Oh, there she is. My apologies. Hello, Tala. If you wouldn't mind starting with the roll call.
Yes, sorry guys for being late.
No worries.
All right, Dylan.
Here.
Carolyn.
Here.
Harrison is here.
Okay.
Will. Is Will here?
I'll send him a quick message if he doesn't hop on.
Adele.
Here.
Akwe. Aziza.
Here.
Brendan. Oh yes, thank you, Carolyn. Brendan. Christine.
Here.
David. David. Yvette. Am I saying your name correctly, by the way?
Yeah, it's Yvette.
Thank you. Jordan. Jordan. I know I saw her here. She might also be.
Yeah, I think she's just, yeah, she gave a thumbs up.
Thank you. Kate. Kate Burnell. I see her name is also here, so I'm just going to mark her down. Miriam.
Here.
Mira.
Here.
Naveen.
Here.
Robert.
Here.
Socket.
Here.
Sateva. Sateva. Sebastian.
Here.
Sweta.
Here.
Tanvi.
Here.
Tonanzit.
Here.
Zara.
Here.
Brianna.
Here.
Camila.
Here.
Ricky.
Here.
Sarah.
Here.
All right, that's it for roll call.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'm sorry you guys are catching me in the middle of a late breakfast. But now we'll move forward to the approval of the minutes. So these are the minutes from our last meeting, which are the general body, which would be January the 25th. If there's no objection, we will be approving the minutes from last meeting. Okay, hearing no objection, the minutes from last meeting have been approved. Moving forward to executive board reports. Obviously, as always, we have the legacy Google Drive. Please do share it with any of your friends, classmates, anyone you're bugging about SGA wants to know more. This is the archive of all of our bylaws, registration stuff, the legislation, and anything else that we're working on at the moment. Brendan also just joined for our Madam Secretary to note. And I'll try to. So yes, that's the legacy, and all of it is publicly accessible via link. Talking about the snowstorm, some items for students who may be on campus or using resources on campus. So Pantry Run, Starbucks, and On the Run store, basically Rutgers affiliate things, are closed for today and tomorrow. That's Monday and Tuesday, and they'll be opening again on Wednesday. For any students who are using on campus parking, you may park in Deck 1 until Wednesday at 9 a.m. There was an email that was sent out by Residence Life at around 1 o'clock yesterday, at least for myself. I'm living in Talbot. So if you have not already, I hope you've moved your car so that the city of Newark can plow the streets and move your car out again by Wednesday at 9 a.m. Stay safe, stay inside. We know that everyone's in very different situations right now. If you have any accessibility issues, anything like that, please do let the speaker and I know, preferably in advance, but if you can't give advance notice, we understand a lot's going on right now. And yeah, I hope you guys are all staying warm. Okay. Next on the executive board reports, we have the SGA Emergency Fund, also titled the COVID-19 Appeal Form in the Rutgers Newark form portal. I'm putting the link once again in the chat, but it's just the first link to fill out. You can register with or without your RUID, I believe, but keep in mind that this fund is only open for Rutgers Newark undergraduate students, since this is derived from our collective undergraduate fees. So congratulations again on passing that legislation, and hopefully many students will make use of that. For further resources, obviously we have Dr. Anise Thomas, who's the Director of Health and Wellness on our campus. The Counseling Center is offering virtual and drop-in hours, and the phone numbers are listed here. There's also a WeChat student text helpline, which is different from the other messaging app. This is specifically for Rutgers Newark. But if you text the number, you'll be connected with a student that can help you with wellness issues. Sam Bello is self-support. So if you want some help or you're not ready to talk to a counselor or anything like that, that's a resource that Rutgers is offering at My Rutgers portal. And finally, of course, the Student Health Center. If you call them, you can schedule a virtual session with a clinician. I actually just called them last Friday. I talked to Dr. Sandra Samuels, feels very helpful overall. And yeah, there are other services, but right now it's closed and they're doing mostly virtual and telehealth. For the surveys, we obviously have the RUPD mission statement survey, which is open till February 12th. So that's just under 2 weeks. Please do fill that out if you have not already. It takes only 5 minutes, and they're looking for student feedback to reform their mission statement. And this is for the collective RUPD, not just for Newark, but RUPD for New Brunswick, the entire department. We also have another survey for the Diversity Strategic Planning Assessment Survey. So President Holloway, on one of his goals of creating a beloved campus community, created this new position, I believe it's the Vice President of Diversity Affairs, who is working with diversity liaisons and representatives on all of our campuses. And this is one of the initiatives that they're pushing forward to get sort of a feel for the campus climate. This one is a little bit more extensive, but it's also really important, right? Because at Rutgers, we do value diversity, and this is one of the ways in which we can enact that on a policy and administrative level. They also have released other reports from previous years, so please do check those out.
Yes.
And so please do check that out. And if you have any further questions, of course, talk to myself and or the Diversity Affairs Centers who are working on several initiatives as well. Speaking of diversity, this is also Black History Month. So hopefully we'll see more events from OSLL and we can help promote and or create them as a student governing association to reflect our student body. Next on the executive board reports, I know I'm running through these very fast. As always, if you have any questions, please do message me or put something in the chat. But we also have SGA leadership stipends. So this was a little bit unclear in the past how this was working, but we recently received some more information. And essentially, while this is, a position that you've been elected to and you're all serving in out of the goodness of your heart and your desire to help students, we do also offer a leadership stipend for those who are fulfilling their roles to the best of their ability. So the speaker and I will be talking over this a little bit more, and we'll be releasing some guidelines, hopefully by the end of this week. This money, of course, does not come from student funds. This actually comes from the chancellor's office. And so there's no students paying for students. Moving on, as always, lines of communication. I think personally for myself, we've seen how important this is, especially this year since we're all virtual. But whenever you're sending any email, any communications, please always check in and CC with the Speaker of the Senate, Tanvi Patel, and loop me in if you can. For finances or using funds, contact our Chief of Finance, who's unfortunately absent at the moment, but he normally is very available and open to meetings. And I believe the senators and the speaker will be having meetings with him soon. For any further collaborations, please contact me. And if you have any questions about legislation, putting something in the meetings, anything like that, please do let me know as soon as you can. I'm asking for an informal deadline of Friday at 12 p.m. While this is not written in our charter and bylaws, I think this will make communication a little bit easier and hopefully smooth things out. Next, we have the state of the campus. Would our president like to touch upon that?
Yes. Okay. So it's coming up. It is this Wednesday at 3 p.m. I chose the date and time because, well, we haven't had one in 6 years, and I've confirmed that information. So we haven't had one in 6 years. I think it just makes a lot more sense now at the beginning of the semester than when they had done it prior at the end. Because then it was like, what's the point, right? What are you actually like reporting, or like what are you continuing? And I found out that it was informally replaced by the open forum. So that's why I kind of stopped. But I don't really see the open forum being too productive, like currently, especially like attendance wise. So administrators have had different platforms to speak already. So I think it'll be good for students to speak as well. And I've expanded it to have some different speakers. And we have like program board, IFSC giving reports as well. And pretty much I'm just going to be trying to cover as much as possible. And I think the main effort will just be sharing the video after the fact. I chose 3 p.m. to account for like any general body meetings or whatever students want to attend beforehand. The whole thing should take like the rest of free period potentially. And after the fact, I'm going to make like time markers for the video. So like students can click to like the specific topics throughout the video. You don't have to like watch the whole thing, right? So that'll increase like usability for it. So there's a wide range of subjects, and I'm still like compiling information. I'm hearing back from Office of Financial Aid on some updated totals. I'm meeting with Dr. Leipold later this afternoon, and IRC and undocumented student services as well. So yeah, I'm just going to be compiling some information.
Thank you very much, President. And now I know that Vice Chancellor Randolph has entered our meeting. Thank you so much for your time. Would I be able to hear a motion to lay business on the table temporarily?
Motion to lay business on the table temporarily.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? Okay, it's been motioned by Senator Shobet and seconded by Senator Okoye, I believe. I know this normally takes a 2/3 vote, but for the sake of expediency, we're going to use a majority vote. Someone may call to order if they wish to enact the 2/3 votes. All those in favor of laying our business on the table, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Fantastic. And all those opposed say nay. Very well. It appears to be unanimous and the ayes have it. Thank you so much. I'm going to spotlight you right now. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. Happy New Year. I know it's been a while since I've seen a number of you, and so happy to join today. I am happy to address any specific questions you have, but as I understand it, it might be useful. I thought I'd go over, I know we haven't been able to get around campus as much as we'd like, and we've recently completed 2 capital projects. One is the 48 new project at the HLSC residence. And the other is the 3rd floor expansion of Dana Library. So I thought I could share a few photographs, talk a little bit about those projects, when we expect them to be online and accessible to students and staff, if that's useful. Happy to kind of address any other things that might come up. I think one of the things that myself and my colleague, Mary Tomasco, Assistant Vice Chancellor and Provost for Budget, who's on the line as well, we were hoping to come back with a very detailed student fee layout, but 2 reasons why we don't actually have that right now. We are actively working at the President's directive to President Holloway's directive to come up with a more streamlined way to talk about, understand, and experience student fees. And so there's been a subcommittee pulled together of universities, CBO, some of my counterparts at Camden, New Brunswick, and RBHS, along with the Central Budget Office to think through that. And then we'd like to come back to the SGAs and share that with you all. So we're kind of in a flux, I would say, but I think it's a real positive move that the President's asked for this clarity. And I think overall, I'm hoping everyone can get on board with what's proposed. So that's active. There's nothing formal to share with the President or with you all right now, but by the end of, likely by May, we should have something to share, but no later than the end of the fiscal year, by June 30. So does that work for you all? I don't know, Harrison, if the presentation of the pictures and the buildings is useful.
No, of course. This is your time.
Okay, let me just pull up my presentation and share it with you all. And I won't take too much of your time. I know you've probably got, it sounds like a lot to do. Okay. Let me just, excuse me, I just want to get a full screen if I can. That's okay. Can you see this? Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. So here are some images of two of the news projects I just mentioned, Dana Library and 48 New. So as many of you know, the Dana Library renovation was recently completed in December. There's still some active punch list items going on. So there's still contractors there. As you all may see, for those of you that are coming to campus, we're doing some exterior site work and landscaping. And then we've got some other work to do on the 1st floor to make sure that the 1st and the 3rd and the whole building really sings. This project involves renovation of both active study areas and passive private study areas. Lots of spaces for group and private interaction and study. We'll also be hosting our graduate school P3, which is faculty support operation, and our global initiatives, experiences, and experiential learning. Those offices will move from Conklin into the 3rd floor of Dana Library in this renovated space, creating some extra space now in the Conklin building for more programming and activity. There we go. The highlight about Dana Library, and many of you may know this history, but this library is relatively old and long overdue for renovation. It was built in 1966. It went through two major expansions, one in 1977 and one in 1944, which added the third floor. But at that time, the third floor was built, and for budgetary reasons, half of the third floor was never even built out. So it was really raw, empty space. I'll show you a few pictures of that space in just a minute. So what this renovation entailed was expanding 6,400 square feet. So actually building on new square footage and renovating about 23,000 square feet of raw space. In that space, there's now a small cafe, there's open tables, lots of active seating, a few classrooms, and again, the office spaces, as I just mentioned. The total project budget was $12 million. So here's some pictures of, and you all know this building super well. It's smack dab in the middle of campus, as you can tell from this map, and really is what we consider the spine of the university. Before Rutgers University was built and expanded the way it was, New Street would have barreled right through Dana Library. So here's an old picture of the library. One of the main flagship components of this renovation is this huge communicating stair that comes out, as you'll see here. And it's renovated with lots of windows, bringing light into that third floor. And I think with the intention of sort of blending into the old kind of brutalist architecture that was 1966, but also trying to bring something fresh and bring some light to the space as well. Here's another picture from a different angle, standing in front of the campus center and seeing how we opened up almost half a wall with windows and that communicating stair. Here's a picture of that raw space that I mentioned. So a floor that was built, never actually developed. And now what you can see, some of that space that's been built out. On the right, you'll see some an elevated space for seating, active seating, more windows looking out towards University Avenue, and then some other seating with entrances to the classrooms on the left. Here's some more pictures of that raw space and the conversion. And then here's a wide angle view of the space. When you get off of the third floor elevator, which was built into that large communicating stair, this is really your first view. Here's some other pictures of the office space, the classroom. I want to go back to the front picture. One of the main components of this was really changing the entrance. The main entrance of the library is now over on basically in front of the campus center. So shifting it from the university side to the side of the campus center. It's important for safety, among other reasons. Here's a picture of the classroom. It's a very large, I have to get the capacity for you, but I know the classroom actually, the way this was built and intended was it can be actually split up into 2 classrooms. So that's the Dana Library, and then I'll switch to 48 New. Hard to miss the construction that's been going on for 3+ years. As many as you know, this project was completed in September 2020. Again, we're in the process of punch list. By completed, it means it's suitable for occupancy, but not totally to Rutgers standards. So we still have some work to do. We're asking the contractor to make some updates and changes to our satisfaction. And the open piazza, which is in the center of the building, still is unfinished. And so we're actively getting that piazza built out. The whole building is 320,000 square feet. There are about 11 retail bays on the ground floor, and there's sufficient units for 398 beds. Also, roughly just under 300 parking spaces in the corresponding deck. As many of you know, this building used to be a parking lot for many years. Some of you may know the history of this site and that the parking lot was actually located at the former site of a church, which also included a cemetery. When we began construction, we recognized a number of those remains were not properly vacated as we had been told when we purchased the building, or even before we purchased the building many, many years ago. And so we delayed the project for a year to properly exhume, honor, respect those remains, and then we could build the site. So this is a site view. It's almost a full square block. of this project. As I mentioned, the parking spaces, the beds, the square foot of the retail, and the open piazza. It's an $80 million project. The this project is really kind of I think we see this as the entire university's project. I know it's 48 New, and that's really important that it's a residence for HLC and other scholars, but we're really thrilled about how this turned out. It's more traditional dorms. So inside, there are, in many of the spaces are shared beds, shared spaces, not shared beds, pardon me, rooms for 2 beds, lots of lounge and active space, lots of small study spaces, private and group study spaces, classroom spaces, aggregating spaces. And this will actually be the permanent home of the HLC staff. I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are questions about those projects. For both of those projects, what we hope is that by the fall, we're fully operational, doors are open, and we're ready to go. In the meantime, really to try to hold on to as much cost as we can. And because they're not quite ready for active use, both of those projects aren't open to the public. We've got security in spaces, but overall, our plan is to really bring those buildings online over the summer so that by the fall, they're ready to go for full active student use and staff use. So let me just stop there and see if there are questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I was wondering, actually, would you be able to send that PDF to our SGA email?
Sure.
Fantastic. So I just put that in the chat.
I got it.
And that way we can distribute it to the senators as need be.
I have a question, sorry. I'm actually a part of the HLLC. And so how is it going to be working with, like, is there going to be any classrooms in there or any classes for students there? Or is it going to be just primarily like for the deans of the HLLC and the students?
It's a good question. There's a few classrooms. There's no big lecture halls in this building, but there are classrooms. There's several small study rooms, and then there's at least 1 or 2 classrooms, but these classrooms will hold 30 to 40, maybe 50 people. They're not going to be huge classrooms, so certainly enough space for cohorts to be meeting. And then the small office suite for the HLLC staff. So it'll be much more be a residence hall with some activated spaces than it is a classroom building. But we will be able to hold a few classes in there, and we'll make sure that they have the technology and support to operate as full classrooms on the campus. So there's, I believe, 2 classrooms.
Sorry. But I saw like a parking deck or something. It almost looked like in the back of the building. Is that an actual parking deck for the building, or is it another separate project?
It's an actual parking deck. It's part of the project. There's 330 some odd spaces. And we took staff spaces to build that building and relocated staff to deck 3. We'll be relocating staff back to that parking deck.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do you mind if I ask about the library as well?
Sure.
So I know you mentioned that there are going to be like classroom spaces in the library. So how will that operate? Will like professors have to pay to rent them out? Are there like specific departments that are going to be housed there?
Right. So the classrooms will be put on our electronic management classroom system where all of our spaces are, and any faculty member, student org, I believe, can go on and reserve the classroom space as needed. There are some spaces that there are priority groups. We haven't established that yet. If, like, for example, the library has priority, so if they want the space, they may be the ones if they had programming. Otherwise, the plan is to put them for general use for those classrooms. I imagine our P3 and graduate school will be using a lot of that space since it's adjacent to their offices to host faculty trainings and engage graduate students there, but it will be open for general use as well.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, so just that PDF that was prepared, Is that like public? Could that be made publicly accessible? Like, could we do that?
That's a great question. Dylan, I'm pretty sure you can, but I would feel more comfortable doing, asking, before I do that.
Yeah,
Don't quite
please
know
do,
right now. It's
because
all pretty public information, but yeah, let me find out and I'll let
okay,
you
yeah,
know
I
when I send
intend on talking on like some of these capital projects Wednesday. So, if I can just,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I'm gonna have a long like description with different resources and whatnot, and that could be plugged in there. We can make like a link
Yeah.
online or something.
Sure. And I can, if you'd also like, I'm happy to offline to share any like other images. If you just want images from that presentation for your presentation, I can get those to you as well.
Okay, thank you. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, if you reach out to our Run SGA email, at least my current idea is to at least just share it with the senators so that they have access to the document. I'm just asking that we keep it internal to the association if there is some confidential information. But if you clear that up, that'd be fantastic.
Right, I will. I doubt it, but I would like to just be super.
Yeah. I want to ask our media centers if there are any questions from the live chat. I just got one message to me. So one of our students, members on Judicial Council, was asking about future capital projects.
Yeah. I love talking about future capital projects, but we don't have a whole lot in the queue right now. Our next big project that we were working on was the One Stop, which was a very large, ambitious project to take the first floor of Conklin and relocate the One Stop services at Blumenthal Hall into a renovated space, really a student-centered space, including some space for transfer students and other student experiences where your one-stop source for registrar, student accounting, and et cetera, enrollment services. Yes, Dr. Leipold presented that. That is a really important project that we were working on, but because of the pandemic, across the university, we have halted most capital projects. So that project there's basically just put a pen in that project with plans to revise the project. I think we'll know more when we see what enrollment looks like for the fall. If we think we can re-engage on that project. It's an important project. Yes, the arch is important. And there's no plans to, we have to figure out what to do with the arch. I have to go back to the plans, but I have heard from more than one person that arch is vitally essential to the ethos that is Rutgers University Newark. So we'll give it great care. But that's the plan. And we've got some updated plans, which at some point I can perhaps share when we're ready to share. So that was one of our bigger projects, quite honestly, that we've just put a pause in. As you may know, 155 Washington is adjacent to CLJ. That's undergoing renovation by L&M, one of our partners in Newark. They're real estate developers. They're building an Irby building. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept, but it's like a building that's targeting 35 and under and millennials for really nice living, smaller spaces, but more co-living experiences. So it's a concept that seems to be very popular. There's another building like this in Jersey City. They're bringing that to Newark, and that building. And we're going to be taking 4,000 square feet on the ground floor for our admissions office and welcome center. And so that is, that's our plan. We're still kind of working out the details. So right now we're working with L&M and their architect to figure out, can we really make this sense? Can we have the project make sense? And so that would be a project we would get underway. That was part of our agreement with L&M. So it's something that we plan to pursue in some form or another.
Thank you so much, Senior Vice Chancellor Randolph. If there's no other questions, I just wanted to mention one thing that our SGA is currently working on. One of the big pushes from our RBS senators, and they're meeting with several deans at the moment, but they're also looking to add a prayer space to the RBS building. I don't know if you've been involved yet, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to further collaborations, and we will talk definitely afterwards about all of this.
Thank you for mentioning that, Harrison. I understand that I absolutely understand that that's been a need and a request made. And I understand things are moving along with RBS, and certainly let me know how I can be helpful to continue to move that project along while there are so few people in the building. It's a catch-22 because on the one hand, it's a great time to actually do projects because no one's around, you're not disrupting, you're not, disrupting classes or, but at the same time, just given our attention to resources and wanting to keep everyone safe, we're just, this seems like something that we could actually pull off right now. And so I'm happy to hear it's moving forward, and I'm happy to help how I can to keep it going. And get it, really, I would love to just see it get done and be complete.
Thank you so much for all your updates and your time.
Happy to do it and happy to come back at any time. I really appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm sorry we didn't get the chance to have the other senior administrators speak. But if you guys are okay, we're going to resume our business. We skipped a bit ahead to the hearing of the public. We're now going to go back to committee reports. Are there any reports from any committees? Are there any reports from any committees? Okay. As always, you can bring it up during hearing of SGA or message it later. I will mention that we are very urgently and desperately looking for someone to chair the elections committee, just because of the dates and timelines specified within our charter and bylaws, in which we need to release things multiple weeks in advance. So if there's anyone interested or anyone that you know who would like to help, please do let the speaker and I know as soon as you can. Going forward, are there any reports from the Senate or University Senate?
May I request the floor, Mr. Speaker?
Recognized.
Thank you. So I don't have any reports. Actually, wait, I do. So Brianna and I, Senator Santiago and I, both sit on the Student Affairs Committee, and we have been working on a charge to evaluate the Alumni Association and alumni engagement opportunities for undergraduate, and to examine what sort of relationship exists between the two groups. And we have been meeting with different units on campus to look into it. And we also have a meeting within our subcommittee today to start working on the charge and to hopefully present it for the executive committee meeting next month. Speaking of executive committee meeting, we have one coming up this Friday. So I'm excited to sit in on it and see this is my first one of this semester. So I'm excited, and I'll report what we talk about next meeting. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, University Senator. Are there any other Senate reports? Are there any other Senator reports? Okay, I'll briefly add that the University Senators and I, we've been talking about one of the recent charges brought up and passed within University Senate. The way that University Senate works, it's an advisory body composed of faculty, staff, and students that passes reports or resolutions based on submitted charges, which are sort of like the motions that we have within our body. So the Budget and Finance Committee, which does not manage budget and finances, merely advises on them, which I also serve on, passed a recommendation to combine the fees with tuition, since fees do not create any additional transparency, to my understanding, since they are set at the chancellor level, and it is unclear where the funding goes after that. We don't have any insight into that. So one point that was raised by New Brunswick and Camden senators in their joint resolution that I thought might be worth considering is the fact that tuition remission would in fact then impact fees if they were combined. So it might save those who are eligible around $100 to $300, depending on the campus and what schools or what other programs they're involved in. Senator Shobit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one question about that I actually was thinking about the other day. So if the Board of Governors / Board of Trustees, I'm not really sure which one sets sets the tuition, if they set it at a fixed price, let's say $10,000, and then the chancellor is in charge of creating their own fees for their campus fees, and that money is now under this charge is all consolidated into, let's say, $13,000, $10,000 for the tuition and $3,000 for the fees. How would that go? Because at this point it would be tuition, and to the eyes of the students, tuition is set by the university wide. Right. And so would the fees be consolidated under the approval of the Board of Governors and then issued from them for the Newark campus, or would they just add it themselves on the term bill when the term bill is being sent out to the students of that specific campus?
That's a fantastic question, and I don't know the answer to that. I mean, at least for fees that are more consistent, I'd hope and imagine that they would just be consolidated within tuition. But that does, like what you described, seems like the logical way to proceed. But ultimately, as I'm sure as part of executive committee, any charge or any report that we submit ultimately just goes to the president and the upper level administration for them to decide. Yeah, so within our report, we did not recommend any mechanism, since we're unfamiliar with those, since we don't have any sort of that data or transparency anyways. But that's one possible way it might be implemented.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, New Brunswick and Camden did pass a joint resolution. I talked with university senators, and I'm awaiting any legislation, if any, regarding that issue. Are there any other Senate reports? Okay, I want to take the time to highlight some of you guys. Thank you so much for all your hard work throughout the midst of the, excuse my language, freaking pandemic. So in particular, Senator Warner, who joined more recently, has been working very actively with our president on the Fossil Fuel Divestment Committee, and is starting environmental efforts and is connecting with NJ Perg. So if you guys have any ideas or would like to collaborate with Senator Warner, please do reach out. I know, again, we have a very large group that I can't even name all the members for, working on the prayer space, but thank you all for your efforts with that. I know our diversity affairs and RBS senators are working very hard with that. And thank you, all of you. I know it takes a lot of time to do this, right? To show up every Monday, to participate in all the meetings and all the caucuses. And we really do appreciate it. I'm sure all students do appreciate it as well. Moving forward, we have no old business. Congrats, we finished all business from last meeting. For new business, unfortunately, we have a request to be excused from our RBS University Senator Pragya, just because of graduation requirements and a class that coincidentally overlaps with the time for University Senate meetings. Thank you, Senator Warner, for putting your contact information in the chat. But Senator Pragya, since for graduation requirements, they had to take a Friday class, and University Senate meetings are Fridays from the morning to roughly late afternoon. They are no longer able to fulfill the responsibilities of the role. So if there is no objection, we will be approving the request to be excused or resignation of Senator Pragya. Okay, hearing no objection, University Senator Pragya's request to be excused has been approved, and we thank the University Senator for all their time and contributions to SGA. I know they want to contribute more. Next item, we have the appointment of the newly vacant RBS University Senator position. Are there any nominations from the floor? Okay, hearing the nominations from the floor, we did receive nominations via email and earlier collaborations. So we have nominee Riddhi, I believe I'm saying your name correctly. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
It's Riddhi.
Riddhi?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry for butchering that. But we have nominee Riddhi, who you've all received the resume for. Hopefully you had some time to look over it. If anyone would object, please call me to order with an incidental motion. But I'd like to have Riddhi take some time to speak, if you're comfortable with that.
Yes, of course. I just wanted to say thank you so much for considering me, and I am actually very excited to talk to everyone and see and work more regarding Rutgers Business School, because Pragya actually is my friend. She told me a lot about the Senate, and I am actually very excited to talk to everybody else.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So there's now been a motion, or sorry, my apologies. So via email and earlier communications, there's a motion to appoint Riddhi as the RBS University Senator. Do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
Second that.
Okay, seconded first by, I'll just say, our speaker, Tanvi Patel. So it's now before the floor for debate discussion, or if you guys have any questions for Riddhi. All right, so hearing no debate or discussion, we will now move forward into voting. It's just going to be a simple majority vote. So all those in favor of appointing our nominees, say aye.
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 Fantastic. And all those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. It appears to be unanimous. Congratulations, our new university senator.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Great. So I'll put you in contact with Dean Williams, and our secretary for University Senate is Mary Mickelson, I believe. So hopefully we can get you certified, and you'll be able to attend the last few meetings for this semester. And if you're interested and would like to continue, hopefully you'll run for this position this coming spring for next year. All right, so now we're going to move on to new business. We have motion to form the Student Affairs Committee.
Yeah, I'm so sorry if you hear a lot of background noise. It's just the wind and my window. So I would like to form the Student Affairs Committee to connect our student orgs with SGA and help them with any budgetary concerns or any other concerns that they have. With myself as chair, Senator David Doughty Senator David Doughty, Senator Ricky Castaneda, and Senator Akwe Borte as members.
Very well. Do I hear a second for the motion to form the Student Affairs Committee to connect orgs with Senator Mira Desai's chair, Senators Ricky, Akwe, and David as members?
Second. I second that.
Fantastic. First tiered, second from Senator David. So that's what we'll put in the minutes. Thank you to our senators. So it's been motioned and seconded to form the Student Affairs Committee to connect orgs with the Student Governing Association and help with budget or other student affairs matters, with Senator Mira Desai as chair, Senator Castaneda, Senator Borte, and Senator Doughty as members. It is now before the floor for debate and discussion. Is there any debate or discussion from the floor? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or against this committee?
Hello, permission to speak.
Recognized.
Okay, hello everyone. Okay, Borte, media senator. So I think it's very important to have this committee formed because I know from my perspective, or as much as I know, student orgs haven't really been in connection with the Student Government Association, and it might be because of some issues that I'm not entirely sure about. But I think it's very important that we speak to the student orgs because they also have enough reach with the student body. Even though students don't want to be directly connected to the Student Government Association, they could, the student orgs could play a part in addressing student needs and making, besides talking about things they want for their organization, they could also talk about the experiences that their members have. So I think it's very important that we have this committee, and hopefully the SGA can strengthen its relationship with student orgs and carrying on with improving student experience at Rutgers Newark. So yeah.
Thank you, Senator Borte. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor or against this committee?
So basically just a little bit more explanation for anyone who wants to join in the future, if it's established, of course, but so basically we just want to have a committee that's specifically dedicated to working to bring student orgs into SGA and kind of show that we are a resource to them and that they can come to us for a lot of their concerns, because we just don't feel like that exists right now, especially in this virtual space. So if you're a part of a student org or like a student leader on campus, I feel like this would be great for you, just to get involved and to help us build this connection.
Thank you very much, Senator. Is there any further debate or discussion on this motion to form the Student Affairs Committee? Very well. Hearing no further discussion, we will now move forward into a simple majority vote. All those in favor of forming the Student Affairs Committee say aye.
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 Fantastic. Thank you, Senator Castaneda. All those opposed say nay. Very well. It appears to be unanimous and the ayes have it. Congratulations to Senator Mira Desai, Senator Ricky Castaneda, Senator Akwe-Borte, and Senator David Doughty for forming the Student Affairs Committee. Congrats. I know in the past we've had an SOIS committee that worked more exclusively with budgetary matters, and Senator Ricky Castaneda was a pivotal role in that as chair. I'm really looking forward to seeing the work of the Student Affairs Committee overall. So thank all of you. Okay. Okay, seeing no more new business, we will now move forward into hearing of SGA, where it's open for any senator to comment. Are there any comments from the association? Okay, hearing none temporarily, I'd also like to open it to the public at this time. Does our media committee have any comments from our live stream?
No, there's no comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Borte. Once again, are there any other comments from the association or the public? Are there any other comments from the association or the public? No.
Okay, cool. My thing was not working. Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin. I'm the campus organizer working for NJ Perk students. And I just wanted to, well, one, thanks. This was a really cool meeting. Learned a lot, but also just to let you guys know that we're officially launching all of our campaigns for the spring semester. This Thursday, we have our every semester we have our kickoff meeting where we, for like an hour, where we launch officially all of our campaigns for the semester, and we and then we had to meet the new class of interns and volunteers working with us. So it's a really fun event. If you want to learn more about how we're going to work to commit Rutgers to 100% renewable energy, or our hunger and homelessness campaigns, and all the other federal actions that we're taking part in supporting. So if you're interested in lobbying or any of those things as well, definitely join to hear more.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. I know you sent me the email on the report. So sorry, just got a notification. I know you sent me the email on the report. I'm actually hopefully going to schedule a meeting with Senator Warner soon, and then we can reach out and talk about the plans for February moving forward.
Awesome.
Thank you. Are there any other reports or comments from public or association?
I have a question, Mr. Speaker. What is the status? I know last semester there was a conversation about Board of Governor representations for undergrad. So I was wondering if you or the e-board has an update on that.
Yeah, our president might have more information on it, but I'll speak to it briefly. At the moment, I don't believe a charge has been submitted to University Senate yet. To my understanding, New Brunswick has been using like their connections, in particular President Nick LaBelle, his connection with President Holloway to talk about it. And I know that New Brunswick, they have a very different structure. RUSA obviously is much bigger. They have a legislative department that's exclusively focused on lobbying and this work, that is trying to push for that. In our last conversation, I believe RUSA was trying to help Camden, and they're advocating for Newark to also set up a legislative department of sorts. So that's the current status at the moment. I'm not sure if any other e-board members have anything to fill in. Okay, thank you, President. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do have some. I do have some worries because obviously, you know, we're all student leaders on this campus. I think on the Newark campus in particular, all of us wear a lot of different hats, have a lot of different responsibilities. So I don't know if spreading our association to create a legislative branch specifically for lobbying or that purpose, I don't know if we have the time or resources to dedicate to that specifically. But if there are any other senators, I think our university senators might be well suited for this, who would like to contribute to that effort. We can definitely talk more, but I haven't heard much since then. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just for some context, Rutgers' overall structure, I think I've mentioned this briefly before, but of course at the very top, there's a president, the board of governors, and the board of trustees. They are the major decision makers over much of the university, so much of their time is taken up with that. So as of right now, there's no student representation, or I should say, no voting student representation. I believe University Senator Gavin from New Brunswick is on the board of trustees, but he is not invited to any of the closed meetings. So they briefly bring him in when they would like to share some things. But aside from that, he's mostly excluded from the meetings. So there's been a push more recently for students to have representation on this major decision-making body, since the University Senate is only an advisory role. So just a quick backtrack to the structure, we have the president and the board of trustees and board of governors at the very top. Underneath them are the chancellors for each school or unit, and underneath the chancellors are the respective deans for each area of education, student affairs, student life, and so on and so forth. Are there any other questions or comments from the association or the public? Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I just have one more question.
Sorry, go ahead.
I've heard a lot about the stipend, but I don't really know any details about it. I literally heard about it with my meeting with Dean Williams, but that's all I know.
So the leadership stipend is actually something that like executive board and the speaker just has gotten more information about as well. I vaguely remember, seeing something like it on a term bill or something last year, but the mechanisms were really fuzzy until now. So essentially, the vice chancellor's office, in order to like credit and sort of thank students for their time, issues a small leadership stipend to members of the association who are fulfilling their responsibilities. So the speaker and I will also be involved in the evaluations this year to some extent. So we'll be issuing some more information and guidelines by the end of this week after we've had some more conversations.
By saying so, point of clarification. When you say you and the speaker will be, what is the process? Because I know it was never really described to senators before.
Yeah, and we've been trying to schedule meetings, and just with coronavirus and everything else and people's availability, it's been difficult. So we're still having conversations about how that will come about. But as soon as we have more information and we've elucidated that more, we'll let all the senators know.
And how far will your involvement with the speaker be in determining who?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And to that end, I'm not exactly sure either, since ultimately this comes from, the money is not our money, if that makes any sense. The student involvement in this, to my understanding, is fairly recent, so we're still figuring a lot of things out.
Okay, last question.
Yeah, no worries.
Is there a requirement checklist? How is that being decided? Is that So I guess also another question with that is, who will be setting that up as well?
Yeah, so let me give you some context, right? So at least to the best of my knowledge, before this, there was no student involvement, right? It was just the vice chancellor's office and the dean of students, determining the eligibility and partitioning that. With this semester, the spring semester, they're involving the speaker and I in these conversations as well. I still don't know how much our input will be valued, but the speaker and I are having detailed conversations about how to make this an equitable and fair process. We know that the late timing obviously does not help overall, but we're giving information out as soon as we can while making things as clear as we can.
Okay, so you just confused me again. Sorry.
No worries.
So, so when you first said it, it sounded. So I'm just trying to understand if it's you and the speaker that will be deciding this.
For the senators.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay.
The executive board, to my understanding, is also eligible, but I believe that will be just determined by the dean of students.
Okay, so I don't know if this is. I find that to be a little bit of conflict of interest, but I don't know if that's the set rule and if that's like what is going to happen regardless, or if that's going to change upon more conversations with the vice chancellor or Dean Williams or whoever it is. But I think that's some I think there's room for a conflict of interest to occur if the people that are being deciding on this are a part of the association themselves. Does that make sense?
Okay, I think I might understand what you're saying. I think the intention was just to allow for more feedback and since we're more actively involved in working with senators, and our dean of students has been trying to engage with students a lot more this semester. So I think that's the overall intention. But if there are other concerns from senators or anything like that, we can definitely address that once we figure things out a bit more. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, at least for to my knowledge, right? Since executive board, we meet with Dean Williams really frequently, and the speaker is also being involved in those meetings now. It would be my guess that the dean of students herself is going to decide whether or not we're eligible for those stipends or our requirements, anything like that. So it would not be, hey, I think I deserve a stipend. I'm doing great this year, right? So I don't think there's a conflict of interest in that sense, but if there are other concerns, we can definitely address those.
Yeah, by conflict of interest, I didn't mean the e-board getting the money. That's not at all trying to, like, that's not what I'm considering, because at the end of the day, we're all volunteering our time, and there shouldn't be a reason why certain senators are considered and not e-board members. But more so of, as you know, the nature of being speaker and chief of staff, you are working with the senators. You have personal relationships and connections and friendships with the senators. And that's the sort of conflict of interest that I was looking towards. More so. Not necessarily, Dylan, not necessarily the position that you hold and whether or not you're getting it because of that position that you're holding, but more so towards the, you know, relationship and how like, you know, we're all friends with each other and whatnot. And so that's my only concern.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm sure, like, you know, our evaluations and our feedback will only be part of it, right? Obviously there's some problematic implications if we're the only ones who are deciding, right? Since this isn't even our money, this isn't student money, this isn't anything like that. But that's also a reason why the speaker and I are trying our best to be diligent and deliberate in how we're, you know, creating and providing feedback for all of you.
I look forward to hearing more about this in the future.
Thank you for your commentary, President. Are there any other questions or anything like that from association, public? All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Oh, yes, of course.
Hey, my bad. I have a follow-up to the leadership stipend, because I think that it seriously is a I guess an interesting topic. Hey, everyone. Ricky Castañeda, Senator from SASN. Why isn't this, you know, advertised to begin with? Because I think that, like, you know, one struggle that we have with, you know, finding senators and student leaders to participate in elections and to, you know, have healthy competition. I think that this is something that, like, a lot of senators, especially those that are here, are not fully aware of, you know, coming in. And even those that are signing up, like, this is not public knowledge to whatsoever to the students. I think that this is something that also has to be reconsidered. So do you happen to know why this is not, you know?
I don't. I mean, to be honest, like, even entering e-board like fall semester, I was still very fuzzy on like a lot of these details. And had I known earlier, you know, I think that this is something that should be publicized, right? Especially if evaluations and all that are part of it. And, you know, we do have some difficulty recruiting for student governing association, right? So those are all valid points. I wish I had better answers for them. But hopefully this is something that we can, like, talk about and make more transparent and in the future of SGA, especially with elections coming up.
Also, one more follow-up, just to also mention that the what do you call it? That the senators who excused themselves, I think it was like 6 senators that we had so far. Did they know about this?
Yeah, so I don't believe they knew about this since we had the meeting and this information was shared like very recently, like within the past week. To my understanding, the main reasons for excuse were just time conflicts or life conflicts or, you know, everything that's going on with the pandemic right now. But at the same time, you know, like, I think it could be a factor in their decision making. But we also want students to serve and volunteer, right? I don't think that the leadership stipend should be a role that people are stepping into student governing association for, since it's not sizable. You know, it's not at all going to compensate for the amount of time that we work and, you know, all invest the energy into, right? Like, at least if I recall correctly, I don't know the exact numbers. I believe it's a lot below minimum wage if you add up all the hours, depending on how much you're putting in. So yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to, you know, to relay that I don't think they knew about it. But at the same time, I don't know how big of an impact that would have on their decision making. But moving forward, what we can definitely do is try and, like, you know, once we have more details and once we've elucidated that process more, try and publish that so that anyone who's running for a position or anyone who's engaged in a position, they know from the beginning. That's something I really look forward to as well.
One last thing I want to add, if I may, about that. I do think there is some, I mean, yeah, probably whatever $300, $150, I don't know how much it's going to be, is not going to drastically change the number of SGA senators or representatives that we have serving on the association. But I think to a certain extent, I remember a lot when we were in person, a lot of students were working federal study jobs, or they had jobs at the Office of Academic Services, where I was an employee there, and at the end of the year I got paid such a small amount because of the number of hours that are being divided. And I think there is a point to be made that some students could be involved in SGA knowing there will be some sort of compensation. But I do understand the hesitation regarding not wanting people to be involved merely for monetary incentives. But I think students that will be joining SGA after knowing this already wanted to be involved in SGA, but they couldn't spare an hour or so because they had to work a student job somewhere on campus, or they had to go back to work and focus more on their studying, or go home, focus on their studying because they have work later after their school hours. So I think it's something that will be, hopefully, if this does become public knowledge, incentivize the students to start joining and paying more attention to SGA and how and what is being talked about.
No, definitely, and I you're right. Like every little bit does count, right? And it certainly does matter. Like since we know that our students, have greater need, right? Like we're all wearing these different hats. A lot of students here are work study, have Pell Grants. That's all really important. But at the same time, I don't want to give the impression that this at all can replace financial aid or can replace how much money you can make from a part-time job, right? Because it just can. We're all putting this in time, not because of the stipend, but because we're here to serve students, and we recognize that, this is essentially volunteering, right? Like many other civic service jobs should be. Yes, thank you, Dylan. The elections committee, thank you for mentioning, is also eligible for this leadership stipend because they also contribute a lot. So even if they're not a member of the association, they would be eligible for that. And yeah, I mean, I know like we've had multiple conversations about this, right, Senator Chilbert? Like the sustainability of student life is something that's difficult on this campus because of how many different roles that all student leaders fill. So yeah, hopefully we can have more conversations and like figure out some ways to make it better for students. Yeah. Are there any further comments, questions, anything like that? And no, this is not at all related to the senator funds. This is not related to the General Association. This is not our money, right? This is not from student fees. This is from the Vice Chancellor's office, I believe, and Student Affairs. So no, please do use your senator funds. You're not gonna leadership stipend because of that. We encourage you to be active. Yeah, I mean that's what you're here for, right? We're all here to help each other. We're all here to serve students. And we'll definitely release, more clear information as soon as we get it and as soon as we've had those deliberate discussions. Are there any other questions, comments from the association? All right, do I hear any motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, second. Okay, motion been seconded. Call me to order, but as per our informal rules, I'm not going to take a 2/3 vote on that. Thank you all for your time. We're ending just on time, and yeah, best of luck with classes. Stay warm, stay safe. If you have any questions, anything like that, please do contact the speaker and I. Talvi, you want to give your spiel?
Hi, everyone. I appreciate you guys for joining us today. Have a great day. Stay safe, wear a mask.
There we go. All right. Thank you, guys. Take care now. Good luck in classes.
Bye, guys. Have a great day. Thank you.
Congrats.